Welcome to the Unit 3 Concept Review, Regional and Transregional Interactions, circa 600 CE to 1450. And remember, the goal is that you are following along with the handout of the framework, which looks like this, and that this video just reviews the main points from the handout. Starting with the expansion of exchange networks. Improved technology and commercial practice expanded trade networks during this period. Trade routes promoted the growth of cities, such as Timbuktu and the Swahili city-states, and also Tenochtitlan and Cahokia. Trade in luxury goods was promoted by new technologies, luxury goods like silk and spices, and new technologies such as camel saddles the astrolabe. New state practices facilitated growth, such as the minting of coins, and the expansion of empires facilitated trade. Next, the framework talks about the effects of movement on peoples. People use technology to adapt to the environment, such as the way Central Asian pastoral groups used horses to travel. And there was an environmental impact of migrations, such as the impact the Bantu-speaking peoples had in sub-Saharan Africa. And there were languages diffused by these migrations, such as the spread of Bantu languages and the spread of Arabic languages. Concept 1 continues to talk about trade networks fostering cross-cultural exchanges. Islam expanded throughout Afro-Eurasia. Merchants set up diasporic communities, such as Muslim merchant communities in the Indian Ocean region. And the writings of travelers, such as Ibn Battuta and Marco Polo, illustrate the extent of intercultural understanding during this period. There was a diffusion of literary, artistic, and cultural traditions, such as the influence of Buddhism in East Asia. There was a diffusion of scientific and technological traditions, such as the return of Greek science and philosophy to Western Europe via Muslim Al-Andalus in Iberia, and also the spread of printing and gunpowder technology from East Asia to Islamic empires and Western Europe. Finally, there was the continued diffusion of crops and pathogens during this time period, new foods such as new rice varieties in East Asia, and also the spread of epidemic diseases such as the Black Death. And here's a reminder again for you of those trade networks that facilitated this exchange: the Silk Roads, the Indian Ocean, the Trans-Saharan, and the networks in the Americas. The next concept is political in nature, continuity and innovation of state forms, starting with the rise and fall of new and old empires. Reconstituted governments combine traditional sources of power with new innovations. In other words, governments that reformed from something that fell, such as the Byzantine Empire from Rome, and also the Chinese dynasties, such as the Sui, Tang, and Song. And some of these traditional sources of power are patriarchy and religion, and some of the new innovations are, for instance, the tributary system that the Chinese used. New forms of governance emerged, such as Islamic states, Mongol khanates, and city-states. Some of these states synthesized local traditions, such as Chinese traditions that influence Japan, or Persian traditions that influence Islamic states. And state systems expanded in the Americas, such as the Maya, and by the end of the time period, the Aztecs and Inca. And a reminder of those empires that you saw. Here is the empires in China, some of them at least. The Byzantine, the Islamic empires, the Mongol Empire, and empires in the Americas. This concept, the political one, goes on to talk about how interregional contacts encourage technological and cultural transfers, such as between Tang China and the Abbasids, across the Mongol empires, and during the Crusades. The third concept is economic, about the increasing production during this time period. Innovations stimulated production, and that begins with agricultural production and innovations such as the Champa rice variety from Vietnam to China. There were crops transported to new regions, such as sugar and citrus. and there was an expanded production of textiles, porcelain, iron, and steel in places like China, Persia, and India. Next, the fate of cities. The fate of cities varied quite a bit during this time period. So there were some reasons for the decline of cities, such as invasions and disease. And there were reasons for urban revival, such as improved agricultural production and warming temperatures. And many older cities declined, while numerous new ones arose. Finally, with Concept 3, we have social and cultural continuities and changes. The main forms of labor organization continued, such as free peasant agriculture, nomadic pastoralism, craft production, and coerced labor. Social structures continued to be defined by hierarchy. New forms of coerced labor appeared, such as serfdom in Japan and Europe, and the mita in the Inca Empire, and also the appearance of peasant revolts. And the diffusion of cultural traditions led to changes in gender roles. So here's the visual summary for Unit 3. This is about trans-regional interactions, again facilitated by trade. So here we have these exchange networks and the effects of those increased interactions. Then we have political organization and the post-classical empires. And for economic production, we have the effects of the increased production. And remember, when we use the word effects in this kind of overview, we're really talking about a great variety. It could be social, could be cultural, could be environmental. That's the Unit 3 concept review. Happy studying!